Hey you guys, it's MJ. I'm the founder of All to Love, a spiritual lifestyle brand dedicated to sustainability, spirituality, and freedom for all beings who live, about temporarily, who live on planet Earth. I want to do a collective intuitive energy update. This is just meaning people who live really, I guess you could say, intuitively and withdrawn from mass kind of dominant programs in the collective. And then we withdraw, you could almost say like a mystic or something like that, or a seer, someone tuned into the sway of dominant collective programming. And there is a story, there is a story, a collective story being told about our own evolution as a species on this planet. And it's connected to our connection, it's connected to what we would often call our spirituality. To me, spirituality is simply that feeling connected to the point that you know that there's always this sort of loving, peaceful place inside, no matter how intensely painful your emotions are, no matter how despairing your physical circumstances are. There's this place inside that is like good to go. So this place, this peaceful place, is often what any of us who've had spiritual awakenings connect to. And I love sort of demystifying some lingo and maybe some assumptions we make, including assumptions we make about spiritual awakening. Personally, and after having some good conversations with a spiritual teacher and fellow mystics and stuff, like spiritual awakening, like evolution, is ongoing. Once we have our initial awakenings, those might be quite dramatic. You know, people talk about having these kundalini experiences, and I talk about, you know, to me, my spiritual awakening was a series of kind of cosmic dreams, which I still to this day remember vividly, and perspective shifts, right? So like in one moment realizing that I'm one with everything, and I guess sort of thinking that every other human knew that. And over these last sort of 20 years or so, I've realized, oh no, people are under the veil. People are following the rules of a systematized world and a disempowered human. And it's not a bad thing or a good thing. I often get this sense of like, you know, we are birthing new earth. We are creating a new world continuously for ourselves and everyone here. And part of this next level evolution is, yeah, kind of letting go of the old world. So we're grieving, we're processing, we're letting a big part of our old self, old paradigm die. And one way I think it's quite nice to make peace with it is to be super grateful for it. Like, I think sometimes like people think that I'm railing against the system or railing against the patriarchy. There is residual dense feelings around the darkness or the corruption of the system. And yet, you know, when I drive around cities, or I drive a lot, and like I sometimes just get moments of being so thankful for people who built roads and the infrastructure and the, you know, the planning and the architecture and all of the wonderful tenets and aspects of ourselves that have created the world up to this point, because so much of it is, yeah, truly progressive, truly moving humanity forward on an expansive timeline, an expansive and innovative timeline as well. And as I feel into those higher and higher timelines for humanity, now, and there's, okay, so there's twofold aspect that I'm getting here. There are always infinite timelines, and yet part of what we're traversing right now, we're giving ourselves an opportunity to look over the timelines that we've left behind, or the timelines that we always knew were meant for us. Some of us are beginning to access the multidimensionality of timelines as well, and how we can have true compassion, love, and just honoring where people are on their journey. And then for us, the responsibility is to just keep tuning into the highest timeline that we can feel into, which is really just like the highest vision that we might have from within our own self. And I get, for a lot of us, we've already set the set point, you could say. So we've already kind of tuned in. We've already kind of anchored into the truth of our knowing, the benevolence, the signature of who we are. So now we're kind of crystallizing our new self. We're crystallizing the being, and I can really feel that certain lifelong patterns that we might have been burning through, working through, transforming those energetic patterns. Now the residue is getting really light. The going over of the old programming is, one, getting easier. Like, it's still maybe there, but it gets easier, and we're feeling better about everything. We're feeling kind of motivated in our transformation, in the diligence of our thoughts, or even, you could say, like the discipline of shape-shifting our thoughts, of holding a space with our emotions. And that is, again, I can really see it, having reflected back timelines I left behind. And really, to me, like, if we deny our emotions, all we do is layer up our fears. And by that, I mean, if we have an underlying fear or hatred of ourselves, if we deny the emotional baggage of that hatred, the karmic backlog of that hatred, if we just keep ourselves busy and stay locked in the old paradigm, those fears either, what did I say? The fear of the body. We will, by denying the emotions that we're feeling, we make manifest those fears. So we might make manifest the end of a relationship. We might make manifest the body we hate, or whatever. And that is because we deny the present moment feelings of whatever they are: shame, guilt. And I witness this. I witness how quickly people just want to talk over the energy of it. And also, when people aren't desiring to really venture healing, they just deny that the feeling is there at all. And so, it's important for us who have endeavored this emotional energy work to really empower ourselves and one another. And I know this community has very much been benevolent in my own empowerment. At the same time, I'm really feeling this need to stay centered, and to stay message driven, and to stay empowered from the heart. And again, like, with these old energies come up, I have to remind you guys that when I get emotional, I don't believe in the emotion. What I'm sharing with you is just my process, and that can be probably a little bit confusing for some people when they're just watching, some woman look really sad about being rejected. But in some of those videos, what I'm sharing with you is just the fact that I know that I'm processing old baggage. I'm processing old projections that aren't just my own. That, part of me writing this book and sharing my journey with you is that I actually believe we all have programming and imprinting that's to do with a collective. And by collective, I just mean a group of humans, a pocket of humans. And because I understand that not all healing modalities resonate with everybody, the Fearless Life Guide, for example, and All to Love is not for global domination. It's not designed to resonate with every single human. In fairness, it is probably more than likely designed for empaths, designed for the light worker community, designed for those having a spiritual awakening and who understand already that they're emotionally aware or emotionally intelligent, they're sensitive, introverts, creative artists, people who are already quite engaged energetically and emotionally with life. and I and I don't mean to be exclusive. I just mean with resonance, some people will intuitively understand, and that was a part of writing it, was that like not all of you necessarily will resonate with this. Not everyone will have a trigger, and that trigger might not necessarily turn into waves and storms for everybody. In my process, though, there has been a like, whoa, what happens when I'm just sitting with this energy? And the deeper I go, the deeper I can reflect back to other when they're in my presence, where they're holding defense, where they're holding attack. So oftentimes the anger, the defense, and the attack energies are what we have to kind of be more discerning with, or be more diligent with highlighting, because it's those energies we want to be able to sit with and like feel like, what is that? That defensive energy, right? Because clearly if defense and attack are one and the same, somebody's defending against an attack is technically defending against, right? So when we're defending ourselves, if we can hold space for that energy, normally there's like an energetic drive underneath the defense. And so often for me personally in my process, again, years of practicing this, right? So it's like when I hold space for the defense, I drop in, there might be layers of anger. And then when I process and burn through and work through anger, and within anger, resentment, jealousy, bitterness, twistedness, right? And then within that, there is maybe something deeper: sadness, pain, shame, guilt. And then within that, holding space of just emotion to move through you, highlighting to your own awareness, oh, that's this, oh, that's this, or not. Within your ability to hold space is where we really yoke our intuitive ability. It's where we really can be present with our energy field without judgment. And that's one of the big pieces, is that we're not here to judge. And again, I can look into the, some of my past timelines and feel just the amounts of density I was carrying and how unaware I was in certain situations. And that those of us with this awareness, we can accelerate our path. We can grow and expand our path in a desired way. One thing that I'm hearing about money is that we're about to take a big leap. And I suppose I must reiterate to you now that my channel is really for highly sensitive empaths. My channel is for people who have awakened and are awakening. People who know that they're like a little different. People who have an understanding and either need to transform patterns or uplift their timelines, right? Like we have to be able to reach up higher to that's one, that one. And then that's when our physical reality can start to get really kind of weird. I often feel a bit like gazelle-like in this phase right now. I feel like I have, or like a frog jumping from one lily pad to the other. It's like I do energetically, intuitively just feel this sense of like, just be ready to like over here, over here, over here. There's no, the body is very anchored, but the circumstantial reality isn't, because I'm still uplifting. I'm still transforming quite quickly until that next timeline vibrational match happens. And I suppose that's for some of us where we've been reaching for the duration of our life, in coming into greater awareness, in seeing our patterns, in remembering how to work with the inner vessel in a creative way to make manifest that creative potential that we all carry within us. So we've been like really kind of quickly moving up these, which is why some of us have seen so much shifting and changing in our worlds. And because we're reaching, and essentially that idea of like moving here, moving there, is like jumping timelines, frequency jumps. But of course, thank for the grace of God, it can still be perceived in a linear way, so that I can still be a part of this kind of matrix reality, but it almost feels energetically like we're hovering above it. And that is probably a fairly accurate kind of energetic deduction of how it works, because in our awareness we're actually merged more with fifth and higher densities of our astral bodies, of our kind of expanded selves, right? So we, in any given moment as a being on planet Earth, we could be aware of our of another, a multidimensional aspect of ourselves in a galactic council. We can imagine ourselves hanging out with our mom and dad of a different solar system, or of a different galaxy, or of a different star system, certainly. So, and this is something else that I share with you guys about the cosmic origins, and how our ability to open our mind enough to lock in or root in, or expand out to where some of our connections are. Now, it's evident just when you look on YouTube that there's a lot of human connection to Arcturus, the Pleiades, and Sirius, Orion, Andromeda. And then I'm hearing something about the 13th gateway. So there's something relevant now about the 13th gateway is something around the Gregorian calendar shifting, and us having a 13th month to rebalance the scales, you could say. And then on a more human level, what we're going to continue to see is more men breaking down. And we've talked about this, and I shared with you how it triggered me. And again, my trigger isn't a defense or an attack. It's just me sharing with you guys my process, that even someone who puts themselves out there and I still get triggered by stuff. And at the same time, I'm aware, especially when I'm guided to share it, it's not like, oh, just poor MJ has this trigger. No, the reason I'm guided to share it is probably because it's collective. That the wound it's triggering in me is actually in a lot of women who reflect me. So white, middle class, right? Like all of that kind of stuff. So, so yeah, money manifestation is a big one for a lot of us. And again, it's not like any of us necessarily know how, but it's just done. So that's quite cool. That's exciting. So we're seeing further destabilization of the old paradigm, the economy, political systems are kind of highly unstable right now, and ultimately they're divided. Again, that's like making manifest our deepest, ugliest denied fear, which again is this conflict inside, the fact that we all pretend everything's okay when we're perpetuating a divisive, energetic, controlling and dominating, oppressive energy on this planet, right? So ultimately what we're up leveling is that we're unifying that, we're integrating that, we're transforming that into a greater unity and greater love on the planet. But the polarities is what's kind of really shaking it up. And so I suppose it's actually a same running theme throughout this shift, is that we're going to be constantly hitting up against contrast, which continues to up level us, and then the manifestations come in, and then more people follow the new wave because it's more fun and it feels better and people are nicer, and then people continue to break down and people awaken. So a lot of women have kind of done an upgrade, and then through that upgrade, a lot of men are having to do that upgrade, but on the emotional level. So there's a lot of masculine energy on the planet that need to heal the parental wounding still. And then through that healing, it's almost like, again, an ebb and flow. And you'll find that in your constellation, inner circles, your closest group of friends and family, is that as you start to unify your field, you'll notice that in your own personal community, that the roles or the energetic flows will balance out, i.e., say you're in a partnership, one of you might have a bit of a wobble, but the other one will be like on it. And then you'll start to feel on it, and then that will give space for the other person to have a bit of a wobble. So there's a little bit more of it, rather than people going, just fighting and kind of doing that with each other. Because we have greater awareness, we're going to see a lot more of that kind of happening in relationship, and also on like world stages. And I think it has to do with like the underground, not underground tube, but like underground movements, movements that are happening now, but we're just not seeing them in any kind of mainstream capacity. I'm hearing Native Americans, that Native women are really rising. Actually, that we're going to see some Native women step into leadership roles. Native Americans, I'm talking about. Civil unrest and civil division in the UK, so Brexit. So I'm like surrounding the UK in a bubble of light. There's a lot of unrest and kind of lids being popped off, anger, increasing mass collectives waking up, but also in a kind of angry, impassioned way. There is a lot of poverty, a lot of kind of cutting people off here. Similarly, these things are happening in America. In a weird way, I'm getting that America and also I'll ask a question if anyone knows of any vortexual ley line points in America. Oh yeah, there's definitely Shasta, right? Somebody shared with me that Shasta is the sacral. UK here, we have the heart. And I keep getting this 3. So there's the inner eye, or a spiritual awakening, the heart here in the UK, the heart field is opening for humanity. And then the sacral, the creation, the birthing of the new. So we're unifying our higher aspects, and that's just a really good thing. And that any of it, like, we could get all scientific about it, yeah, for sure. And some channels have probably a better kind of insight on that level. The way I just want to explain it in a simple way is we just feel better. It just means we like inhabit our bodies and flow through life and are a little bit more uplifted, joyful creators. We shine. We've activated our Ka and our light body, and so that's what we're radiating out there. And the more of us who do it, the more of us who will accept it and then endeavor it, because we won't have so much fear. And yeah, so I keep getting the meditation of connecting the third eye, the heart, and the shazbot. Sorry, guys. And the sacral. So this one here, it's like the womb of creation. Because they're all connected. Our sexual energy, we want to be alive in our sexual energy, not enslaved. And that's a big thing, I think, for women. Part of our rising is staying in our integrity, because the dominant program of our enslavement to men is quite still being worked out. That's why all those waves of resentment, that's probably why I was guided to share about the enlightened man, right? Because there's still a lot of energy being burned through for women. Deep layers of oppressive anger, deep layers of disempowerment, deep layers of not owning our bodies. And so it's really important for us right now. And that's why I'm, over the holiday season, I'm going to do a little series of self-love and self-care holiday season hacks, and share a little bit more about my self-love journey, creating all to love, and then little tricks and tools that I'll probably do most days that keep me able to show up, and also keep me able to be really honest about like my process and my full spectrum humanness of like all the emotions, and at the same time the work and the grittiness and the awesomeness of the work. So for us to really anchor into the self-love and like just loving ourselves so much, and yeah, holding space for collective shifts. And then I get like, this is actually a message I think for some of you as Alta Love TV viewers. You know what to do. And this is like, I think for some of us when we endeavor it and we're still just talking about stuff, I feel like some could probably ramp up the self-love vibe. Some of us could really spend a little bit more time luxuriating in our own energy, in that loving way, in that loving. It's so delicate, and I've had a lot of big, and I know there are transformational moments where like, for the first time in transforming lifelong patterns around self-loathing and hating my body, and then having the residue patterns come back, like the fear of weight gain or the fear of like that kind of stuff coming back into my body. And then for the first time, I could really feel like true love for all of my past. So like a true, almost like crying. I'm like, oh my God, I love you so much. Because truly, my self-loathing patterns in my body are what taught me directly about manifestation and transformation, right? Like it was the actual connection, the mind-body connection to energetic feelings around my body. Like think of it this way, like we talk about feelings like some of them are real. Like being fat is a perfect example. I feel fat. Now people of all different shapes and sizes can say that. So I was really kind of working with that of like, I feel fat here. And it wasn't until I started to really honor that as my own creative projection that I was like, I feel that I'm not though. I know the truth of my being. And then over time, the fat just shed away because I wasn't feeding it as a truth of my own existence. I wasn't feeding the feeling to be true. I was sitting with it, holding space with it, and then reprogramming in the mind the truth of how I choose to show up in this body, in this world, right? And then after I witnessed the actual transformation of my body, that's when I started to endeavor every other area of my life. And all of this next level, next layer stuff around love, romance, and relationships, that's where that stuff came out because I managed to get that done. And then my naive mind was like, oh, I'm gonna fall in love and meet Prince Charming. Well, instead, I've had many cycles over these last certainly 3 to 4 years, cycles of like crazy projections around guys, like the worst, you know, attracting like the ultimate playa and then attracting the ultimate, I guess, like liar, or attracting, yeah, just deep, dark, ugly, like fearful, scary stuff around abandonment and rejection and like, yeah, players, like men who say one thing and then do another, and yeah, pretty distorted stuff. And like owning it as my own is like it's so painful, but like I'm grateful for it all now. And I'm grateful to have an understanding of what it means to be a truly independent woman, because I make my own money, I have my own place, like I don't rely, and my past patterns were that I still kind of believe that a man was meant to take after me or look after me. Like that was still a defaulted kind of energetic program of being a woman, that like, well, if everything fucks up, you can just like get a guy to look after you. And if I'm honest, like there's one thing about loving union where people support each other, both people support each other in ebb and flow. There's something a little bit distorted and I would say disempowered that we live, again, where men have all the control of the money, and men are the ones who, and we see it in the physical reality when people make more money or when people own property or when people they use that to power over sometimes. They use that to get stuff from people and to swindle people. You know, I had somebody for months and months keeping like, oh, it's not about the money, it's not about the money, and then it all came out. One, there was a big element about the money because it was more about the fact that this guy wanted to keep all the money, so it was about the money. And then, but then saying it wasn't about the money and then eventually catching this person doing something really insidious, you know, and then addressing it and then having more lies and then also avoidance and then talking about my back and stuff. And I'm like, wow, it is incredible the ways in which our ego and our pain body will go to extra lengths to actually protect itself from feeling shame, from feeling pain, or even just our ego having to admit we're not some perfect person. We're not some perfect saint, spiritual guru. We're not this perfect holy man, right? That if someone's coming into our world and saying like, you know, or reflecting back or saying, whoa, what's going on here? And then they just avoid you and then make up a story about it. You're like, so you're lying, to protect yourself from feeling. And one can say that after one has continuously faced their own shit and their own projection and felt the shame and transformed the guilt. And, you know, those of you who understand the work, it's like when you have to sit with your own shame and guilt, that can be days of... and like you guys, it's kind of like a joke. Like you might think I'm joking about this when I'm going, but like in that kind of paradoxical sense, like that's what I mean about knowing a historical context of the witch hunts and female persecution. And that's a real imprint for a mass collective of humans on the planet, that we weren't allowed to be here. Like, truly. Some of us have memory and have reclaimed and healed karmic memory of being burnt at the stake, being beheaded, being tortured. Not because we were evil souls, because the mass collective probably didn't understand who we were or didn't understand how we had such gifts, and so we were persecuted and killed. And there's a lot of us on the planet who have that memory and who are working through it, and we just so happen to be living in a time where the collective human frequency is high enough that some of us can finally be who we are. Some of us can finally unlock these gifts and not be frightened of persecution. However, it doesn't mean that we're not living through the memory of that. It doesn't mean we're not living through the feeling of being judged, hung, persecuted, attacked, and yet we can hold space now. And that's something that I discuss with some of my female clients, is that we're alive. Some of us in our multiple incarnations on this planet have never survived to this point in life. So yeah, we're rising. More women are really, really stepping into their power, and it's time for more men to be breaking down in a humble way. And they are. And then eventually I'm getting like congregation. Eventually I'm seeing more communities coming together, more compassionate leadership, and more people really changing their mind. There's a lot happening in our power center. And a little technique as I close this share today, you guys, is that if you ever feel really like lit up in your power, and that might feel kind of uncomfortable, you might feel like bloated or da-da-da, meditate in such a way where you can feel into the energy of the power center and work on what's the word? Like move it. So hold space for the power in your center, but then imagine moving it around your whole body. And move the power through down to your legs, up into your face, your shoulders. Just keep moving that power round and round through you. It's going to help light us up. Activate the Merkaba if it's not already active. So that you can be a little bit more centered in your integrity. and protected. So I think that's it for today. Don't forget to protect yourselves with little light bubbles. Thank you all so much for your continued love and appreciation and support for this channel. I love you loads. Have a great